So today we're going to be talking about Eustass Kid's Devil Fruit, which is the one that controls magnet. And so I was reading a little bit about this, and it says that he controls an electric magnetic devil fruit. That's what some people theorize. And going by this theory, we're going to talk about his devil fruit awakening. I think that this is one of the most underrated fruits in the series. I think it has a capability that is something like the Gomu Gomu no Mi, where you have to be creative and good usage. You have to know a lot about the science behind it, and I think that this fruit will be eventually very powerful in the series if Kid can use it correctly. So, according to what we saw previously, Devil Fruit's awakening makes the surrounding area of the user whatever the user is. For example, Doflamingo, he used the strings, right? So he was able to make the ground into strings. Able to make the ground into strings, and he could control the strings. He could capture people with the strings. He could do whatever he wanted with the strings, basically. So everything around him, right here, if I was Doflamingo and I awakened my Devil Fruit, I could just turn that keyboard over there into strings, go up, and I could use it whatever I will and command. So, based on that, I think that Eustass Kid will be able to do the same thing with his Devil Fruit, and he will be able to turn his surrounding area, all this, into a giant magnet. Whether it will be separate magnets or just all the same magnet, it doesn't really matter. I don't think it should. So the first thing I would want to talk about is, can he move the magnets like Katakuri did with his mochi, or Doflamingo did with his strings? If he can move the magnets, I think that would be just very overpowered, because he would be able to move the floor, which is a giant metal. He would be able to enhance it with hockey like Katakuri did, right? He enhanced it with hockey when he made the giant donuts, right? And he punched through it, and it was just, the hand was inflamed with hockey, right? If Eustass Kid could do the same thing, he could just, like, out of the floor or the wall, a giant hand made out of iron and enhanced with hockey or ornament, hockey with it, and just punch someone. That will be overpowered. It would be kind of like Luffy's Gear 3rd, but on steroids. Okay, we're talking about tons and tons of iron with hockey, and he can move it flexibly. So if he can do that, I think he will take a note off of Luffy, and he'll be able to. He'll do like what kind of Gear 3rd does, and he'll have, okay, excuse my drawing. You'll have a giant arm of metal, and he'll enhance it with hockey out of the wall, and he'll just keep pummeling this poor enemy. But because of the overpowered nature of that, I do not think that he will be able to do that, and instead I think he will just be able to turn on and off the magnets, right? So far in the series, what we have seen him do is he would attract weapons with his hand. He would take it and then make it into a giant fist, and he would be able to control that fist made of weapons, and he would attack people, right? And the second thing we saw him do was he could repel either, also, and this is going to be really important, because if he could only attract, okay, maybe I understand why people are underestimating this, but if he could only attract, that would not be powerful. But he repelled a cannonball that was coming towards him, right? So that leads me to my first technique that he is going to do with the Devil Fruit Awakening. And this technique is going to kind of be like Soru as one of the 7 techniques. And the person, for example, Rob Lucci, he would kick the ground super fast with his feet, boom, 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 and he'll be able to teleport, right? Because he's hitting the ground so fast, he can just move super quickly around everywhere. And this is also what Luffy does in Gear 2nd, where he's able to hit the ground super fast and he can move. So that's the first thing I think Kid will replicate with his Devil Fruit. He won't exactly do the same thing that they're doing, but this is what he will do, right? So he awakens his Devil Fruit, and this whole building that he makes is now magnetic. So what Kid will do is he will have himself right here, who himself is a magnet, and he will make this part of the wall attract him. And he will make this part of the wall repel him. Right? And then he will just be able to, because of how strong his magnets are, he will just be super quickly attracted to this wall. And this wall repelling him will push him forward super fast. Kind of like a roller coaster, and it starts off and then the motor engines just push it super fast. That's kind of what Kid will do. Another scenario I can see him using this technique, this is the first technique, is, for example, he would attract himself to the ceiling, and this repel himself from the floor, right? He would be attracted to the ceiling. He's now almost off the ceiling, and then he would attract himself to the wall, other wall, he repel right here, repel right here. So he goes from here, he repels, attracts to the wall, and then he attracts this wall right here and repels right here. He goes to the other wall now, and then he gets pushed back, he attracts himself back down to the floor and repels himself from the top of the building or the roof. And so that way he'll be able to get over obstacles such as other human beings or enemies. So excellent enemy. So that's his first technique. It's something like Soru, but he's just using attraction and repel. Okay, the next technique I could see Kid using is levitation of other human beings or items, really. For example, we have right here. Here is the building. This is technique 2. Right. So here's the building. Eustass Kid is right here, and this is the enemy. This is Kid. So there's actually been research done and experiments conducted where because of super strong magnets and something about the water and frogs and the iron in frogs and strawberries, they've actually been able to levitate strawberries and frogs using super strong magnets. Also trains too. Yeah, using maglev trains. So what I think you'll be able to do is, the way they did this, right? The way they did this was there was a magnet, electromagnet right here. This is the magnet, and this is like the frog. Okay, and they would just flip the magnet on and off, 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 right? And so the magnet is switched on it tracks the frog, and it's switched off, and the frog goes down. And it turns on, tracks, off, frog goes down. So it just keeps going on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, super fast. So the frog just seems to stay suspended or levitated in midair. So I think Kid will do the same thing, but with humans, because his magnets are super strong, and it's been shown that he can turn the magnets on and off, per se. Like, he could stop the traction, or he could start the retraction. So what he'll do is he'll have this part of the ceiling or wall or floor, doesn't really matter, attract the opponent. Attract the opponent, and he'll turn it on, it'll attract him, but then he'll turn it off, he'll start to drop again, but then he'll turn it on, it'll attract him, he'll turn it off, he'll start to drop, and it'll just keep happening. And so eventually the person will just stay in midair, kind of suspended, and they can't move. Kind of like the book fruit, where Luffy just was stuck there and he couldn't move. So I think that he'll be able to suspend people, especially people who aren't very strong. I don't think this would work well against someone like one of the warlords or one of the Yonkos, especially Yonko commanders. This will only work against maybe mobs or crowds, navy crowds, navy soldiers, regular soldiers that just huddled up. There's a bunch of them there. Okay, too many to count, right? And he just suspends all of them in midair all at once, and yeah, they just keep getting suspended there. Another possibility is he could, technique 3, he could take the iron out of people. Now this is an interesting one, right? So there's iron in our blood, so I'm pretty sure we all know that. For example, here's iron right here in my blood. And so this is him. And he would just turn the ceiling on, turn the floor on, turn the wall on, turn the other wall on. So all of these walls are turned on, they're magnetic now. And he himself is magnetic. Actually, sorry, he's not magnetic. And basically, the iron out of your body would just go out and be attracted to the wall, and you'll be left with cuts everywhere because there's iron flying out of you, and you can't stop it because the iron in your body just wants to go to the wall. This is kind of the same thing as an MRI. You know, when they take pictures and they're like, oh, do you have an iron filling? I mean, you have metal in your, like a filling in your tooth, otherwise it'll be attracted to it. It's the same thing, but on another level. So if anyone has, you know, fillings in the One Piece world, I don't know whether they have that, or just generally iron, like they're healthy and they have iron in their body, and it'll just be attracted. And this will kill them, obviously, because it'll shred their heart, because the blood is going through the heart, and the iron in the heart just goes out and the heart breaks. It's the heart, and there's just iron flying out of it and being attracted to the wall. That's another possibility. I think this is quite a scary devil fruit. So I think there's a few ways that an enemy could counter this third technique, right? Because this third one especially seems pretty powerful, because it can just, there's iron in your body and it just rips it out, right? I swear, even like Luffy has iron in his body, right? And it'll just be ripped out. I don't know whether his blood is rubber. So it just gets ripped out, and yeah. So the only way I could see this being countered, which I don't know, is maybe enhancing, kind of like Virgo, enhancing your entire body with ornament hockey. Okay, this is a full representation, but the entire body is now ornament hockey, and so the iron won't completely go out. But that leaves them like defenseless, not defenseless, but it makes them use up a lot of hockey, and so Eustass can just come in and, you know, punch him or do some other form of attack. Okay, so the last ability that I can see Kid doing is going to be one of the more powerful ones. I don't know whether this is possible, but maybe in the One Piece world, it is. Okay, we're gonna assume that. So basically, magnets are formed because of this is an atom, right? And these are electrons. Atoms are formed because of the movement of electrons around an atom. And the movements of electrons around an atom are very important because it's what keeps like atom there, right? Without this movement of the electrons around the atom constantly, there's actually a lot of space in atoms, right? There's a lot of empty space. All this empty space, I'm pretty sure is being filled by the electrons. Correct me if I'm wrong, or something is happening, and basically that's what allows us to put our hand on something. Because of the movement of the electron, it repels our hand upwards against gravity. I'm pretty sure that's what happens, and without this movement, the things would just be destroyed, right? I'm not gonna say atoms get destroyed, but maybe they just get flung apart, right? And things would break. So you being made of atoms, we would, if our electrons stopped moving, we would just break, right? So I think there's possibly a way where, because Eustass is a magnet and the movement of electrons cause magnets, right? I think there's a way that he can just stop the movement of electrons in a person. And what this would do, right? It would just like kill him instantly. It would kill him, and because the electrons aren't exactly moving or something, he wouldn't be pushed up by the floor. He would just be dismantled and destroyed, and he would be killed. And so this is, I think, one of the more powerful techniques that he'll be able to have once he awakens his double fruit. He'll be able to, let's say, stop the movement of electrons around an atom. Okay, this one, I haven't done enough research about this, so correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, so I think those are some of the 4 techniques that Eustass will be able to do. I'll list them out here, if anyone wanted to skip it. The first technique is something like Soru, where he'll be able to move because of attraction and repelling of magnets. He'll be able to move super fast. The second technique is levitating people and stopping them from being able to move. So he'll just attract them to the ceiling, would stop attracting them to the ceiling, super quickly, so they'll be levitated. The third technique is taking iron out of people's bodies, so that he'll be, iron is taken out and attracted to this wall, and they will just be left with shreds on their face. It's just iron taken out of their body, and cuts everywhere, and cuts in the heart, which, you know, will kill them. And the fourth technique he'll be able to do with his devil fruit is to be able to completely stop the movement of electrons around the nucleus of an atom, which would destroy whatever that atom makes up. So if he stops the movement of the electrons around a person, he will just not exist anymore. Yeah, so those are the 4 techniques that I think Eustass Kid will be able to do with his awakened devil fruit. Alright, thanks.